clued in so that when it's time for them to come forward, I will know what to do. That's really the main thing. They knew what to do already. I was the one that needed to know. So welcome to this evening's meeting for the special meeting for the Urban Renewal Agency. We'll call this meeting into order and ask the recorder to please call the roll.
Board Member Anderson?
Present.
Board Member Bennett?
Here.
Board Member Nanke?
Here.
Board Member McCoy?
Here.
Board Member Dickey? Here. Board Member Benjamin?
Here.
Board Member Benards?
Here.
Board Member Lewis?
Here.
Chair Peterson?
Here, thank you. Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, Member McCoy. Welcome back from your journey. We're happy that you are back with us. And do you have a motion regarding the approval of special meeting agenda and additions and deletions?
Okay, I move approval of special meeting agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Member McCoy and seconded by Member Bednarz to move the special meeting agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And is there any comment regarding the special meeting agenda that needs to be made tonight? I don't think so. So we'll move to the approval of the additions and deletions to the agenda. Do we have any?
Nope.
Oh, we don't have any. Then we don't need to worry about that part. We have no reports from boards or commissions. Is there anyone who has signed up for public comment? No. All right. Then we'll move to the consent calendar. Member McCoy, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved by Member McCoy and seconded by Member Bednarz. Is there discussion?
The item on the consent calendar has to do with renewing or a change to a lease that we've got on some public property at Pine Street, and it's basically authorized the executive director to execute the ground lease with Alvaro Venagas for property located at the intersection of Pine Street and Portland Road Northeast, where he's operating a mobile food cart. He's extending the lease. It was 1 year. It's going to be extended to 5. The proprietor is putting in some, on his own money, electrical utilities, and so wants a little longer lease as long as he's making that investment in the property.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I see no further action to come before the special meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. The meeting is adjourned. I will now call to order this evening's meeting of the Salem City Council for May 23rd, 2016. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Bennett?
Here.
Counselor Anderson?
Here.
Counselor Nanke?
Here.
Counselor McCoy?
Present.
Counselor Dickey? Here. Counselor Benjamin?
Here.
Counselor Benards?
Here.
Counselor Lewis?
Here.
Mayor Peterson?
Here. Thank you. And Councillor McCoy, we need a motion regarding additions and deletions to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move approval of the additions to the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor McCoy and seconded by Councillor Bednarz to approve the additions to the agenda. Is there discussion? Councillor McCoy?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we've got several additions. Adding a map to the 3.2A, which has to do with the septic failure. In 6B, we added a complaints report to the Human Rights Advisory Commission work plan, an update. On 6C, there was the roster to the Mayor's International Council was added. Also on 6C, there was an additional attachment, 7.1A, revised it to amend the proposed public hearing date that was incorrect because we changed the date from previously on the next council meeting.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding the additions to the agenda? All right, the motion by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Benars. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. It's now time for council and city manager comment, and I'd like to open with a couple of comments. One is that I had a thoroughly enjoyable Saturday, even though it was a little bit rainy, it wasn't bad. And that was for the tremendously well-attended Country Financial Kids Relay. And this is an event that has gone on in Salem, and I can't do this off the top of my head, but I think about 35 years, 42 years, thank you. And it was, as I say, well-attended. 3,500 children were running throughout the day at different times. And they each brought with them, I think, 2 or 3 parents, grandparents, friends, neighbors. It was a huge turnout at McCulloch Stadium and in Bush Park. And I really want to say our city staff worked very hard to make that event possible, but Country Financial does as well, with a financial commitment of about $20,000 and literally hours and hours of work beforehand, even visiting schools and encouraging children to run, and then the day of the event. So it was a great event, and I appreciate it very much. Our city manager came also and was there with us on the field. That was fun. So I wanted to especially thank the city staff who had worked so hard to make it a really special thing. And now to all the people on television, if you had a child that was running or a friend that you supported in that race, it was a great event, just a great event for everyone. I also wanted to give a brief report to council about the Homeless Initiative Task Force, which was formed several months ago with the jurisdictions of Salem, Keizer, Marion County, and Polk County. We've had 3 meetings. The most recently meeting was to specifically listen to testimony regarding the needs of homeless veterans. And it was a very, very insightful meeting for many of us who were there. And I appreciated the testimony of people who came and also the work of staff ahead of time to really prepare us for that meeting. In the future, as we meet, then I will bring back a report to council, so you'll be hearing more about that ongoing effort. And I see a hand up. Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Madam Mayor, I just have a question. Would that meeting be, I wasn't able to get to that, would that meeting be on CCTV?
I believe it is. It has, all of the meetings are being taped.
Okay.
And so that should be available.
Good.
If it's not CCTV, it may be through the website
Of the Homeless Initiative Task Force.
For the Homeless
Okay.
Initiative.
Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. Okay, those are my remarks. Councilors, do you have remarks this evening to share? Yes, Councilor Dickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Friday afternoon, I had the opportunity and the privilege to go speak to a group of 27 graduating seniors from McKay who are part of the Teen Action Team. If you know, we have a youth services coordinator who provides technical support to that group, although they do have student leaders and they have staff at the schools that are leaders. And there are these groups in several of our high schools. These are kids who have given a lot of time and leadership into their school. They've done a lot. You've heard the 1,000 Souls Shoe Project. This is what they're doing. The McKay campus looks amazing because they have this campus beautification effort, as well as many other things. So it was really exciting to see 27 kids graduating in one club. That's pretty phenomenal. That doesn't usually happen. So I was excited to see that and see that, you know, our investment in that program, how it's paying off. These are kids that are, one of them is a Gates Millennial Scholar winner. You know, these kids are going off to college. Some of them are staying in our community, going to Chemeketa. So it's really great to see student leaders come up through that program.
Great, wonderful. All right, other councilors? Councilor Benars, and then Councilor Anderson.
I just wanted to say, I think it was last Tuesday, it doesn't matter. It was the final day of the mentoring for C-Tech students out at the C-Tech Center. This year there was 3 times to get involved as a mentor and have 4 to 6 kids that you would mentor during a set period of time. And these kids are going to be graduating, most of them from this point, from the first year of, this is the first year of the program being the way it is right now. But anyway, I want to encourage anybody, look into being a mentor next year when the time comes up and the school period starts on, to be a leader, to lead those kids in school who are looking people in the community to help them.
Great, wonderful. Counselor Anderson.
Continuing the education theme raised by my fellow counselors, last Tuesday I went to the 22nd Annual Turnaround Achievement Awards by the Salem-Keizer School District. I was there representing the city, and Chief Niblock was also there, so we had both elected and administrative officials there, and it was each one of there was a child from each middle school and each high school in the Salem-Keizer School District, plus Blanchette. And each one of the children was introduced by their counselor, a teacher, a coach, and then the kids got up and gave each one of the well, not all of them, because some of them were too overcome to really say anything. And it was a very personal journey for these kids and for their teachers and other employees of the school district. It was very emotional for me to see what can be done when we place this emphasis upon the youth of our city. It was just a fantastic day all around, and I want to commend the Salem-Keizer School District for what they do with the turnaround, and I really want to commend both the teachers and counselors and coaches of these young people, but even more so the young people for the changes they've made in their life, and it was really apparent, and I was very glad to be there.
That's wonderful. Thank you for attending. So important for the city to show our support. That's great. Okay, other comments? Our city manager, do you have a comment this evening?
Thank you. Several. First, the police department would like to invite the public to have coffee with a cop tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Ike Box Cafe, 299 Cottage Street. Police officers will be available for some informal conversation, and we encourage those who are in the area or would like to come down to the Ike Box Cafe to join for some conversation, join a couple police officers for some conversation and a good cup of coffee. And that's tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. While most of us were sleeping this morning, one of the 2 signature arches for the Peter Courtney Minto Brown Island Bridge arrived and are on site. And over the next several weeks, we'll be seeing those arches go up into the air. This morning, I was not up at that time, but I understand it was somewhat anticlimactic as far as the arrival of the arches. But they are here, and the project is proceeding on schedule. Also, for those who are interested in the arches, they can watch the construction at the city's website, cityofsalem.net /Minto Bridge, and you'll be able to watch the arches go up. Next week, we will be doing a full launch of our new agenda system. We've launched portions of it, and thank you for the feedback regarding the staff reports. For your next council meeting, it will be the full use of the new Legistar system, and we'll be sending out some information to councilors. We believe it'll be an improvement for you as well as for the public, ease the access to information, and make it a more efficient process, which will allow staff to push out the agenda packets earlier. So counselors and the public will have more time to review information before council meetings. So, again, thank you for the feedback so far, and certainly if you have questions after we send the additional information, please let Amber, Dan, or I know.
Wonderful. Okay, that's it. All right. We now move to what I always find to be an interesting, for me, and I think fun for the community portion of our program, and that's the proclamations. And tonight we have 3 proclamations, and I'm going to start with the Mid-Valley Sports Awards proclamation, and I'm going to ask the Statesman Journal President Ryan Kazurski to come forward and others that you would like to bring with you from your staff. And we're going to, first of all, turn on some more lights here. Is that too bright?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Councilor McCoy, it looks like I'm rather blasted. I'm sorry. I felt like I was sitting in a cocktail lounge. I didn't get the lights up. If you'd like to come forward here, we're going to present this proclamation to you. And welcome, and we understand this is the first time, so this is really quite exciting for the city and for the Statesman Journal, and most of all, for the students, and I thank you for coming. And obviously, you are Statesman Journal President Ryan Kazertsky. Did I say that correctly? And with you is?
Dan Miller.
Dan Miller. And Dan Miller, what do you do?
Our digital director.
Oh, all right. Thank you. So the proclamation is, whereas the first ever Mid-Valley Sports Awards will be a red carpet event on June 7th, 2016 at the Salem Convention Center. Whereas students selected as finalists for any of the awards and all Statesman Journal Athletes of the Week from the 2015-2016 school year will be in attendance. And whereas the stars of the gala will be the truly outstanding student athletes of the Mid-Valley, the best of the best, young women and men brought together under one roof for the first time, with more than 100 students invited to the event. Whereas an award will be given for the male and female athletes of the year, coach of the year, and the biggest award of the night, the Capital Cup. I want to see that. That's going to be great. The Capital Cup competition is a season-long look at Salem area high schools, both public and private, and how they do in sports, cheer, band, and academics. And whereas Jerry Rice, the most accomplished wide receiver in the history of the National Football League and rated the #1 player of all time by the NFL Network, will be a featured speaker. Now therefore, I, Anna Peterson, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim June 7th, 2016 as Mid-Valley Sports Awards Day. And I encourage the residents of Salem to attend this very exciting event and to cheer for the student athletes of our community. Congratulations to you for putting this together and for really presenting to the community what is going to be, I think, a signature event. Would you like to say a couple words? They pointed at each other. Okay.
We just are thrilled to highlight some of these athletes. You know, I came from Phoenix. I've been here for a little over a year, and the amount of not only just athletic athletes, but how in tune they are with the community, making the place better, how in tune they are on education as well as athletics is just phenomenal. So we're thrilled to bring Jerry Rice to talk to him, and then also we just added Joey Harrington will be at the event as well, emceeing. So we'll have a famous ex-Duck, and then obviously Jerry Rice will be there as well.
Well, go Ducks, right? Right. All right. Thank you very much. Shall we do a picture? This is the proclamation. Present the proclamation to you. All right. I love this. The editor of the paper, Michael Davis, we should introduce him as well. Photographer tonight. On camera, we have Michael Davis. Thank you. You're very welcome. Our second proclamation this evening actually probably has the largest contingent of uniformed people that I've ever had come for a proclamation, and I love that. And this is for the Civil Air Patrol. And so if Captain Mark Trujillo and Cadet Major Bannerman will come forward to receive this proclamation, and then I would like to ask all of the officers and individuals and cadets with the Civil Air Patrol, if you'll stand when we actually have this proclamation. But it's an honor for us to have you with us. It was good for me particularly to work on your proclamation because I learned a lot about the Civil Air Patrol. And so I'm hoping by presenting a proclamation to the community that we help educate everyone about what you do. All right. So whereas, if you'll all please stand, now we will do the proclamation. Whereas Civil Air Patrol was founded on December 1st, 1941 to supplement the United States military during World War II, and in 1948 was designated as the United States Air Force's official auxiliary with 3 missions: emergency services, cadet programs, and aerospace education. Whereas since Civil Air Patrol's beginning, the organization has set itself apart during the country's most tumultuous times, locating enemy submarines during World War II, assisting rescuers and state agencies immediately following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, heavily supporting hurricane reliefs in 2005, 2008, and 2012, and in response to the Gulf Coast oil spill in 2010, as well as aiding communities during other natural disasters such as floods, wildfires, ice storms, and tornadoes. And whereas Civil Air Patrol further provides vital homeland security missions that help ensure the protection of the nation's capital and the nation as a whole by assisting Air Force pilots with target intercept training and operations. Whereas Civil Air Patrol provides exceptional educational and growth opportunities for youth through its nearly 24,000 member cadet program, which annually provides access to top national summer flight academies, as well as national programs emphasizing leadership and careers in aviation. Whereas Civil Air Patrol's aerospace education program annually touches more than 1,800 educators and more than 150,000 youth, teaching aviation concepts that emphasize aviation's connection to history, math, science, government, and economics. Now therefore, I, Anna Peterson, the mayor of the city of Salem, do hereby proclaim June 5th to 11th, 2016 as Civil Air Patrol Week. I especially want to congratulate the Civil Air Patrol for its 75 years of missions for America and its outstanding cadet program and aerospace programs, which annually touch the lives and ensure the safety of thousands of American citizens. Congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to you. Would you like to say a couple words?
Indeed, this is an honor to accept this proclamation on behalf of the 50 men and women and cadets of the Salem Squadron, as well as over the 500 members throughout the Oregon Wing. I'd like to mention that we are going to have an open house at the Salem Airport on Saturday, June 11th at 9 a.m. till 6 p.m., so please stop by. As a small token of our appreciation, we have a little something, Madam Mayor, for you. Again, yeah, something for your office there. Again, in honor of our 75th year, as you mentioned in the proclamation reading. So, again, it's quite an honor, and please invite everybody to come out. Just so you have another reminder, we have another card with date and time, and if I could perhaps leave a set of these with the recorder for a distribution, that would be great.
And I would like to present a proclamation to you, and I know there are some cameras here, so we want to make this a nice photo opportunity. We'll do both.
All right, that's perfect.
Okay, there we are.
Move forward.
Are we good? I think we're good. Congratulations. And thank you for all your work. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Thanks. Oh, all right. Thank you. All right. Our last proclamation has to do with something that we've done in the past in the city of Salem, and that has to do with public safety and public works. But this year we thought a special proclamation joining the two was certainly well in order. So I would like to have our fire chief, Niblock, and our police chief, Jerry Moore, come forward. And I believe you all, you also have some of the other officers with you that are going to come forward. This is really a uniform night. It's okay. I love uniforms, so this is good. Welcome, Chief. How are you? I'm doing well. All right, so we have several members of the fire department, and we have our police chief, Jerry Moore, here. And it's my honor to present this proclamation. Whereas the city's employees provide critical services and protect the health and safety of its residents and visitors. Whereas these employees help keep our community, streets, and parks safe for all of its users. Whereas Salem's firefighters respond to more than 20,000 calls annually, including fires, medical emergencies, vehicle accidents, water rescues, hazardous material releases, and other emergencies. Whereas, through Salem Fire Foundation's generous donation, the Salem Fire Department's paramedics train more than 3,500 8th grade students each year in the life-saving skills of CPR and AED usage. Whereas officers of the Salem Police Department provide for the law enforcement and public safety needs of the community by partnering with residents in making Salem a safe and enjoyable place to live and to visit. Whereas Salem Public Works employees construct, maintain, and operate the infrastructure necessary for basic urban needs, including safe and reliable streets, healthy and plentiful water, well-functioning storm drainage, proper treatment of wastewater, and our parks facilities. Now, therefore, I, Anna Peterson, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim the second week of June 2016 is Public Safety Week, and do hereby proclaim Thursday, June 16th, 2016, as Public Works Day. I encourage all Salem residents to participate in Public Works Day at Riverfront Park on June 16th, and I ask all community members to join me in recognizing the importance of public safety and saluting the accomplishments, the excellence of all of our public servants at the City of Salem, particularly Salem Fire, Salem Police, and Salem Public Works Departments. Congratulations to all of you. Would you like to say a couple words?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're very appreciative of the recognition, and I think on behalf on all of us up here, I'd like to say thank you, and we're really here to serve the public, and all of us, Police, Fire, and Public Works, would encourage you to come out to Public Works Day. We'll all be there to show what we can do for the community.
Public Works Day really is a tremendously wonderful interactive opportunity for not just children, but for adults as well. And I want to see if our police chief has a comment. Come on. He's so shy.
We've arrested all the public works.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Chief Niblock said it very well. It's an honor for all of us to provide for the public safety needs of this community. We love our job most days, and it really is. It's a calling, I believe, for all of us, and we are very pleased that we're able to provide the service that we do.
Well, we are the recipients of your good service and your dedication and your hard work. We thank you, all of you. Now, shall we kind of gather around this proclamation, and we'll do a photo. I saw someone with a camera earlier, and I want to make sure that we get a photo with Chief. Come on, squeeze down here. All right. Who's doing the photos? Oh, Counselor. All right, here we are. Are we ready? All right, here's got it. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we'll now move to public comment, and I want to see if we have people signed up. We do. So as I'm calling the first couple of people here for public comment, anyone who was here for a proclamation who would now like to leave, you may stay as long as you like as well. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable in leaving. It's kind of the practice. So.
Go enjoy your day.
All right, and for public testimony, Jonathan Castro Monroy and Ted Stonecliffe. And we try to utilize both podiums.
Yes, sir.
and welcome. And if you'll please state your name and your address or your ward, and you'll have 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, the amber light comes on, and then at the end of 3 minutes, the red light comes on. Thank you. All right. Mr. Castro Monroy, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes.
All right. Welcome.
Jonathan Castro Monroy, Chair for the City of Salem Human Rights and Relations Advisory Commission. Address, home address 4780 Warrington Street, Southeast. Business address 500 Liberty Street, Southeast Salem, Oregon. The reason why I'm here today, I will briefly tell you about our role in the community, and I will also tell you about our priorities for the year 2016. So I will start by saying that this commission was established by the Salem City Council over 50 years ago, back in 1964, and in recognition that differences in race, ethnicity, religion, economic status, and other personal characteristics may give rise to tensions, practices of discrimination, and acts of prejudice in the city of Salem. We take direction and inspiration from Chapter 97 of the Salem Revised Codes, which states that it is the policy of the city of Salem to eliminate or to minimize discrimination, and that the city intends that every individual shall have an equal opportunity to participate fully in the life of the city, and that discriminatory barriers to equal participation in employment, housing, and public accommodations be removed. In support of Chapter 97, Chapter 8 of the Salem Revised Codes sets forth the general powers and duties of the Commission. Within that scope, we are always available to provide information, referrals, and assistance to the community members who have experienced or have concerns about discrimination in the city of Salem. A staff liaison, Gretchen Bennett, behind me, prepares a monthly and annual report on calls concerning perceptions of incidents of discrimination in Salem, which you should have a copy. And in addition to responsive and reporting services, the Commission creates an annual work plan to take initiative on specific objectives towards the goal of promoting human rights and eliminating discrimination in Salem, which you have a copy and I will briefly talk about. And I can finally not use my notes. The first objective for the year is to create a resource directory for responding to discrimination complaints. What this is basically someone who feels that they have been discriminated in the city of Salem. They can now go into our website or call and actually have a directory of the different resources that are available to them depending on the situation of the discrimination. The second one is to strengthen the Commission's liaison program. And in my opinion, I think that is the most important one, because a lot of our commissions, a lot of our boards do a lot of work and a lot of planning, but it's almost like we're wasting our time if the individuals who need to know we exist don't know we exist. So the purpose of the liaison program was my idea since I joined the commission when I was 19 years old, 3 years ago. And what this is we are partnering with nonprofits and organizations in the city of Salem that actually have exposure to the individuals who are most likely to be discriminated. And I'm really looking forward to that. Does that mean I'm up?
Yes, actually, I'm just going to have to
You
call
guys
your
have a
attention
copy?
to that.
Let me know if you have any questions on that.
Thank you very much, and we very much appreciate the report that's been provided to us. And I see here we have a compilation of incidents reported in 2014 and 2015. Are there questions from any of the councilors? Councilor McCoy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the incidents report and it's for 2015, I see. Is this up, down, average? Where are we at in the number of instances reported that you dealt with during the year?
Yeah.
Right. So this is my first year as a chair. So just to clarify, the first 12 were actually situations, discriminations that took place that are protected classes by the Salem Revised Codes, and then the others were not. Now, I do have Gretchen here. She's the expert. I usually like to just delegate that sort of question because I actually don't know the exact change. So, Gretchen, do you have some information on that?
It's down a bit. It was 19 in 2014 and 12 in 2015 for that number.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think, did someone else have their hand up? I'm sorry. No, apparently not. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your service on the board and tremendously appreciate your leadership. And being chair is an extra responsibility. We're so happy that you're able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Our next person is Ted Stonecliffe, and he will be followed by Margot Lucas and then Dr. John Chapala. Mr. Stonecliffe, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Peterson, City Council. My name is Ted Stonecliffe. My address is 4041 Southwest Vicuna Street, Portland, Oregon, and my business address 555 Court Street, Northeast, Salem, Oregon. I'm a long-range planning analyst for Salem Area Mass Transit District, or Salem-Keizer Transit, as you might know it. Chariots. We are here tonight to ask approval of the city to partner in a transportation growth management grant application. We would like to do a study of the sidewalk networks in the Salem and Keizer urban growth boundary, where our fixed route Chariots buses operate. And under the Americans with Disabilities Act, we are obligated to provide a paratransit system called Chairlift. We also have the Red Line system, which is for seniors and people with disabilities. And as you know, the fixed route buses, the cost per rider is 6 or 7 times lower than the cost to provide a ride in our paratransit or Red Line network. The sidewalk network to get to our fixed route bus or Chariots bus stops could be improved in many locations in the city, and this grant would hire a consultant to study those sidewalk gaps, the needs that are there, and then amend the city transportation system plan, as well as the City of Keizer's transportation system plan, to set a priority for any future improvements that could close those gaps and make it easier for people with disabilities or senior citizens to access Chariots buses rather than needing our paratransit or Chairlift. Let's see. We did approach the City of Keizer last week at their city council meeting, and they approved the motion unanimously. We are not asking the city for any financial commitment other than soft costs for staff time. The district would be paying the local match, which is 12% of the cost of the grant. The total cost is about $72,000. So the only commitment is really those soft costs for staff time at this time. So I'd like to take any questions if you have any.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there questions? Well, seeing none. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming and the opportunity to possibly partner on this. Thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Margot Lucas, followed by Dr. John Chapala, and then by Chris Oss, I believe it is. Good evening, Margot. Welcome.
Good evening. How is everybody? I just wanted to speak briefly to the medical marijuana ordinance. I'm generally in support of that. I did want to ask for some more information regarding the Head Start locations. I was able to look up some brief information online, but really couldn't get a good list of where those Head Start locations were. So I would appreciate if the city would give us a list of those locations. If they're going to be included, we would like to know where they are. And so that would be the first item. And then I just wanted to speak briefly to a second item, which is the tax ordinance, and just give you some quick numbers that we went over at the last city council meeting briefly. But these are out of the revenue office for the very first months of marijuana sales. And so the revenue department here in Oregon did report 253 facilities paying into a total of $14 million for that first month. So divided by that 253, it makes $55,000 per dispensary. And if you take that $55,000 by, I'm guessing, 18 facilities here in Salem, it comes up with $990,000. 3% of that, $29,700 for an annual, times 12 months for an annual $356,400, sorry. So that's based on just the first month's sales. So I just wanted to share those figures with you. And there was a couple of things in the ordinance that I was going to be bringing up regarding some things that were just slightly missing out of there. But other than that, if we could get a list of that head start, I would really appreciate that.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Lucas? Councilor Bennett.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Lucas, could you describe, you said something's missing. I'm not sure I understand. I want to make
well,
sure.
We were looking to the staff report and the last bullet item regarding the city licensing of the facilities. There was no, I couldn't find anywhere in the ordinance that last bullet point. So I was looking for that and didn't find it in the actual legal language of the ordinance.
And that last bullet point is
the providing the existing city licensed medical marijuana facilities will have a 90-day from, accepting from the effective date of the ordinance to apply for a recreational retail license prior to the city accepting license applications from other parties. And that was the last bullet point in the staff report.
Okay.
If I may, that's section 3 of the ordinance. It's page 27.
Oh, it is on page 27. All right. I'll look that up. Thank you very much.
Great.
Okay, any further questions for Ms. Lucas? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. And Dr. John Chapala, followed by Chris Oss, and then Ron Oss. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councilors of City of Salem, a proud city to live in. I'm John Chapala, Dr. Chapala, John Chapala from Ward 8, West Salem, and chair of the International Council. A very pleasant, fun council to be part of a chair. It is, as you remember, you have authorized this in 2013 as a council, and I was given the charge of bringing the communities together and make this Salem a wonderful place to live. And imagine for your visualizing, like each culture that's represented here in this town, in this city, are like threads. What I am supposed to do is bring them all together, weave a fabric that would be phenomenal, beautiful to behold. And we have been doing a wonderful job. We have a number of about 22 different communities that represent on the council. And plus we have some advisors that will give us advices on different issues. And we have already done a few things that to bring to you. One is that we have had a international potluck a few months ago, a few weeks ago. And food always brings people together very well. And especially when it's an international food, you have different tastes, different flavors, different colors, and it was a success. We partnered with the Multicultural Center which is coming up to have the World Beat Festival. It is beautiful to bring people together. Once we begin to get to know each other, living in this community becomes cohesive and it's exciting because you begin to recognize each other. You become friends and it makes a difference in the quality of life. I'm also supposed to present to you, if you look into your folders that were given, a brief summary of how many cultures that are represented here, how many languages that are spoken here. And briefly, before the light turns red, there are 72 languages are spoken in the homes of this Salem-Keizer School District. And at least 22 distinct races are identified. 25 cultural community hubs of all types live in this city. And truly, this is an international city, and your support is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Dr. Chapala? Well, I would like to take a moment and say thank you for your willingness to work with me and with Gretchen Bennett and with other leaders in their community to bring together people to form the Mayor's International Council, and for your guidance and your leadership and your time. It has made a tremendous difference to really bring people together. And I want to say to the council, I hope that you'll take a few minutes when you have a chance and read the report that was compiled, and really it gives you a different view of the city if you haven't had a chance to really be out among the various cultures who are here. And I also draw your attention to the slides that were part of the presentation that was made at the Mayor's International Council a couple of months ago in preparing this report. The demographic information I find very helpful, and I'm certain that it will help us as we're going forward with the Mayor's International Council, further reaching out into the communities in Salem. So I thank the council for your support for the Mayor's International Council. I thank Dr. Chapala.
I thank you, and also I want to say a word. If you ever get a chance to attend different festivities, festivals of different cultural communities, take time to go, get to know people, and enjoy the flavors, the colors, the sounds, sights. That would be a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next we have on our list, I'm sorry, thank you. Chris Oss, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Chris Oss. My address is 1860 State Street. First off, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to explain how the proposed adoption of medical marijuana rules pertaining to recreational would affect my business. I own the longest continually operating dispensary in Oregon and the first in Salem. As you know, Marion County is putting the recreational law to vote, and since I'm in unincorporated Marion County, my business is at risk of closing January 1st because of recreational is 90% of our business. I have 11 employees that depend on my business to feed their families, and because of the upcoming vote in November, they are worried if it does not pass that they will no longer have a job. Because of this, I found a place in Salem to move. Or I looked for a place in Salem to move, sorry. After contacting 63 places to lease, every one of them said they will not rent to anyone in my industry. Since I couldn't find a place to rent, my dad and uncle both took loans out on their houses to buy a building so I could operate my business. When I found a place in their price range, I called the city of Salem and asked if a recreational dispensary would be allowed there, and they said yes. So my dad and uncle bought a building. After asking Salem and City Zoning and Planning 4 times, they said yes, I could do a recreational dispensary there, just not a medical marijuana dispensary, which I understood because the medical law would not allow it to be there due to the proximity to a park. So I put tens of thousands of dollars into the building, and my dad and uncle put in $100,000 each to buy it so I could lease it from them. Now, a week ago, we finally got ready to turn the plans in, and to get a permit, and later that day we received a phone call saying now we can't open there. Keep in mind, I asked the proper people at the city 4 times, and every time the answer was yes, you can do recreational there. Well, now I can't, and I'm out my entire life savings, and my dad and uncle may both lose their homes. I'm extremely confused and frustrated how this is even legal or ethical to tell someone yes, then recant on it. I strongly urge you to grandfather me and everyone else that's in my situation so they can remain in business. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions? Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I'm wondering if any of the 4 conversations or interactions you had with the city were in writing?
That's the problem, is I found out later that I should have done it that way. I talked to Amy Dixon on the phone 3 times, twice in person, so technically it's 5. She called us and said straight up no, so I mean, she knows that I went in and talked to her and understood the whole situation and apologized for it. Though, $250,000 later, that's a pretty strong apology.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you. What exactly is the problem with your location again?
Do you know where Duck Inn is on State
Yeah.
Street? Right behind there, there's a small little park. It's like 20 feet by 40 feet. With the medical law, you can't have a dispensary within 500 feet of a park. We're at like 473 feet, which we have DPSST certified officers check IDs, and we have a locked door that they have to buzz you in, similar to a prison cell.
Right.
So I don't understand how a child could leave a park and wander into my building and be exposed to marijuana when there's a separate entrance, a DPSST certified officer, and a locked buzzer door.
The park then is on the, is immediately behind the Duck Inn. It's that property right there, not the one that's across the, there's like a little seating park across the
creek there.
Yeah. Is that the park?
That's the park, yeah.
It's across the creek from you?
Yeah, it's I'm next to Dave's Taekwondo, right down.
Okay.
Right, so it's like 473 feet, I believe she said it was.
Which side of the creek are you on? You're on Dave's side of the creek.
Yeah, we're right next to Dave's, yeah, and so that's just half a block down and then over the creek. Which, I mean, I understand, but like where I'm at now, I'm out on State in Lancaster, and you have Bob's Adult Bookstore that has some pretty seedy things happen, and it's directly across the street from a high school. And that's okay for that kind of activity to happen, but a state certified business that has security officers running the door, it's just a little confusing why it's so much of a double standard.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Following up on Councillor Bennett's, what you're talking about is a little tiny triangular park there across from the little dam there where the mill race cuts off?
Exactly, yeah. It's not even really a park. You can't, I mean,
It's
there's
the
one
city-owned land. I didn't know it was designated as a park.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, every time I've looked at it, I always thought it was the neighbors were encroaching on city land because there's been, this is in my ward, and there's been, like barbecues, you know, like somebody, the apartment next door, the house next door brought their barbecue over and they're using it. I don't know that there's any city park, so I'd be very interested if we could have some sort of staff report about, you know, I don't know that it could be grandfathered in because we haven't even passed the legislation, but, you know, is that a park? Is it not a park? How does that, is that designated?
Public space.
Yeah. So, I mean, there may be some other way to look at this. You know, if all the facts you're telling us this evening are the real facts. Oh, no, I mean, I believe that you're telling the truth, but you know, we'd have to look into that in terms of how the measurement was done and is there something we could do about that. So I'd be very interested if we could get a staff report back about your situation, and I hope somebody from the city would follow up on that so we could see if there's anything we can do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Bennett?
Yeah, I would hope in that staff report, for any of you who haven't seen this so-called park, I think photos would help to understand really what we're talking about here. This is a very small spot with a couple of benches.
It's pretty much a triangular piece of dirt is what it looks like to me.
Well, it's unmowed grass last time I looked.
Yeah.
It really wasn't even fit for seating because it had remained unmowed for such a long period of time. I think we need to understand what that piece of property is. That to have these folks so negatively impacted seems really a problem.
Well, and in my current business right now, where we're looking to move from, we pay an average of about $13,000 to $18,000 a month in sales tax, which, you know, comes back to the city in a pretty good chunk.
All right, any further questions from councilors?
Yeah, I know.
Councilor
Please?
McCoy. Sorry, Councilor McCoy?
So, any staff comment on what's going on here? Is that a park or not a park?
I assume if he's been advised by staff that it's a park, then it is a park, but we can check on it and confirm it.
Councilor Benjamin?
Well, at this point, we're really splitting hairs down to the nitty-gritty and understanding that it could be a park, but you're not going to throw a Frisbee in it. And that's, to me, that's a park, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to walk my dog in it, you know? But I think that just everybody should be aware that, you know, understanding that the staff needs to be really clued in about when people ask these questions, that they take the time to answer them correctly so that business owners can make a valuable decision moving forward. Because it's just getting to the point where now we're making allowances here and allowances there because of early adopters that get into this situation and maybe they shouldn't have. You know, at what point do we stop, you know, making allowances for business owners that might be jumping in a little too fast, a little too deep?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't believe it was an inaccurate answer, however.
Yeah, if I could, Glenn Gross, I'm the Community Development Director. When the gentleman inquired, and in fact, as of right now, the site can be used for recreational marijuana sales because it's a retail use and that's a commercial zone, and so it's an allowed use. This ordinance coming now will make changes to that situation for this particular site because apparently of the proximity to the park. But the staff was giving accurate information at the time that he inquired.
So do I understand that it's the new ordinance that we're going to pass or not this evening?
Yes.
That is changing
Yes.
the answer?
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson?
So just looking at this hypothetically, I suppose in that we could, if it says near a park, we could potentially change it to say a park of more than X square feet. You know, and because Councilor Bennett and I have both seen that place, and it's, you know, it's from here to the gentleman who's testifying down to a triangle.
With one little bench in the middle of it.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know if that's a possible thing to look at, but maybe it might be.
I think we want to be careful right now to not start deliberating.
I agree.
If we have more questions for Mr. Oss, we should ask them. Otherwise, we'll wait till we're at that point in the agenda. Councilor Lewis?
Yeah, I'll ask. The ordinance that we're entertaining now, was that mentioned to you when you had your conversations with the city?
She said there was no insight, no word, no nothing. This was about 4 months ago that we purchased the building, maybe 5 months ago, something like that. And at that time, you know, I did all due diligence. I checked all the laws, asked everyone I needed to ask because I wanted to make an educated choice because my dad and uncle were putting up their homes to get it. So at that time, she said there was no talk. It was Amy Dixon. So there was no talk, no anything about it, that it would be okay for recreational, just not medical.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ron Oss, followed by Kelly Oss.
Hi.
Welcome.
My name is Ron Oss, and I live at 3795 Poison Creek Road South. And I'm Chris's dad, and I got a second mortgage on my house and put up $100,000 with my brother to buy this business because, like he's saying, jumping too fast, how many times do you have to ask if it's okay? And then you're told it is, so you borrow against your house. I worked for the state for 30 years with juvenile delinquents, and I'm retired now on a fixed income, so I borrowed this money in order to help my son start his business or continue his business. And I don't think that's jumping too fast if you ask 4 or 5 times and the city okays it. And it's a pretty big burden on me, $100,000 on a second mortgage on my home to put out. And I didn't do it lightly. And I just want you to understand that. And I felt like you were kind of saying I'm jumping. And, you know, we ask the people that make the decisions, what more can you do?
Councillor Benjamin?
The comment was in general, too deep, too fast. Okay, maybe you didn't jump too fast, you might have jumped too deep. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there as in general, in broad.
I understand.
And you said you were in juvenile corrections or something for 30 years?
For 30 years.
And then you thought you'd like get into the pot business?
I think I'm
Okay.
going to interject myself here and just ask if there are other questions for Mr. Oss
I think
this
you have
evening?
feelings about it. I don't use pot or anything, and I'm doing this for my son. And being in juvenile corrections, a lot of people think alcohol is fine, but pot is okay, or vice versa. Alcohol is okay and pot isn't. Having worked with kids for many years, I've seen a lot. I've had 3 kids that I work with die of alcohol poisoning, and I have never had anybody die of marijuana poisoning. So,
Well, we appreciate you coming down and taking time to testify this evening. Are there any further questions from councilors? Councilor, I'm sorry.
Nanke.
Councilor Nanke.
I've heard of him. He's been here like in this chair for. Anyway, thanks for coming down. Essentially, what's on the agenda tonight is the first reading that's going to schedule a public hearing. So you would like to look at us, or have us look at doing something about that at the public hearing?
I would appreciate it. I appreciate you guys being open-minded and looking at it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Bednarz.
So after this, if it passes tonight, it'll come out to public hearing. We then have any changes to it which would engross it. It goes then to the second reading and gets voted on a second time before this council. So that's the process. You'll have time to come in and give testimony. Yeah. The other side that I wanted to cover with you is that I'm appreciative very much of what you're doing in that block of State Street. Frankly, between that and the Carnation ice cream, I mean, it's going through a revitalization, which State Street, and I believe Councilor Anderson, and I'm not sure Councilor Bennett have been on trying to figure out how to help State Street between 25th and 12th grow, and thank you for investing in that area is what I'm...
Well, thank you. I appreciate the comment.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kelly Oss, followed by Mike Flynn.
Hi, I'm Kelly Oss.
Welcome.
I reside at 400 Clover Street in Salem on there. And I just want to reiterate what they said on there, because I put up $100,000 to help Chris. And he employs quite a few people that pay a lot of tax to the city of Salem and to the federal government and state government. So when we're told that we can go ahead and do something, then the carpet's pulled down. It's kind of a lame thing to happen on there. And also, what's the definition of a park? It's supposed to have a playground, play equipment on there. So I don't see any of that at the park. So that's another thing that you guys should probably look at on it. And I don't smoke pot. I don't condone pot. I was doing that for my nephew on there. So if you guys cop an attitude like that, I don't like that personally, when you get an attitude that way. So I just want to reiterate
I
that.
just think you took it the wrong way, partner. I don't have I want to see this move forward and.
Councilor Benjamin.
Right. All right, well.
I believe Councilor Nanke had his hand up.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
In regards, we do have definitions of park, and we just went through a great big master planning thing, and we actually added a lot of things that people wouldn't necessarily consider parks, like linear parks, which may just be a piece of an empty trail as well. So those those definitions are out there. We'll have to look at those and
Right, well, we
see
were
how
just
that-
given the information on that, so I thought I would share
Yep.
it with, so everybody could go ahead and take a look at it.
Yeah, and everybody should look at those again. I think that'll be a subject at the public hearing.
idea.
Because Chris employs a lot of people, and he's a good business owner on there, so I think you guys should look at his record too, and then before you make a decision on it.
But when we're actually looking at using a park as a restrictor for something, the type of park may, in fact, have an issue with that based on size or function or something.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, well,
Thank you,
thank you
Mr.
much.
Ross. We appreciate you coming down and being willing to come and testify.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you much.
Thank you so much. Mike Flynn, followed by Larry Weber. Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Thank you for waiting patiently.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the city councilors. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you again. Last time I was up here, you guys voted in favor of going back and re-looking at the regulations as they were and looking at having the possibility of rezoning and giving us in the IC area the opportunity to have some of that re-looked at for creating a cannabis or medical or marijuana grow site. And I know it's on tonight's agenda under the informational items, number 6, particularly item number E, which allows options to allow the commercial growing of recreational marijuana in the IC and the IP zones. And so I'm here to ask your continued support and to ask you for your endorsement of allowing those changes, either of those two options, to allow it to be used so we can continue with the investment and the growth out on Portland Road and that area in the IC zoning. So I really want to keep it brief and just ask you for the continued support and thank Diana for all the effort that she's done to bringing this effort forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Flynn? All right. Thank you for coming and testifying this evening. Appreciate that. And Larry Weber, followed by Joan Weber.
Larry Weber will pass.
Mr. Levy and Mr. Weber. Oh, all right. Thank you.
Hi,
Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Joan Weber. I live at 3045 Crestview Drive South. And I didn't come with a prepared statement because what brought my husband and I to this meeting was the issue of short-term rentals here in Salem. We knew that the council was going to begin considering this whole issue. We have been directly affected by such a property. It's directly across from our home, and we have experienced a lot of negative impacts, I guess I would characterize that. You know, for instance, delay in mail delivery, traffic issues. There's been quite a bit of congestion caused by all these cars parked on our street. So I understand the council is going to start discussing this issue. I would ask that you consider not only the city's ability to capture short-term or transient occupancy tax, please also consider the impact on the neighborhoods and the long-term residents of Salem. My husband and I have lived here for 20 years, and we just feel that allowing people to convert a property where they no longer live to something like this will really change the character of our neighborhoods and possibly the quality of life for some of us. One concern that we have is that this property is half a block from Candelaria School. And when you have a transient population coming in and out of that place, how does that affect safety of our school children? I mean, that's one issue. There's a lot of other issues I think that really need to be considered before the council would make a decision as far as considering changing the zoning code. Right now, all of these people that are operating these properties in such a fashion are illegally doing this. And I would just respectfully ask that you consider both sides of the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mrs. Weber? Yes, there is a question. Councilor McCoy?
In my past work experience, I dealt with this across the state. So a few questions so I have a better feel for what you're dealing with. Is it Airbnb or, I mean, you're saying there's congestion. Are they renting for long term, or is this every once in a while or on weekends or what?
This particular property is advertised on Airbnb, VRBO, I think Vacations to Go, Travel Advisor. It's on numerous websites. And it is advertised as a 5-bedroom home that can sleep up to 15 people. The current property, you can only fit 3 cars in the driveway right now. We have experienced, he recently rented out for several weeks to Army people from Joint Lewis McChord. They had come down here for domestic surveillance training. And so there were probably up to 15 people in this home. Most of them brought their own vehicle. So all hours of the day and night, there are lots of cars parked on the street. Mailboxes were blocked, so our mail delivery was disrupted. Another concern is, how does a commercial business like this affect my property values? I mean, this owner of this property never consulted any of the neighbors. What do you think? I'm considering doing this. He just did it. And I have not directly spoken to him, but it's my understanding that he owns other properties like this up in the city of Portland, which has made concessions or has decided to allow this type of activity. And he should know that there are zoning laws that you have to look into before you turn a property into such an operation.
Thank you. There's some things you can do. You can limit the number of weeks a year they can rent it. You can require them to license. There's a lot of things you can do to deal with this. So we'll look at that as we move forward.
Thank you.
Councilor Bednarz? I think that Councilor Bednarz has a question for you.
Thank you, Joan, for coming down. We have spoken about this actually several times over, and hence the reason this whole thing's kind of coming to fruition. Has parking been the main problem overall, more than anything else that you faced?
Well, parking, there's been mail delivery disruption. For instance, this particular property on Airbnb is advertised as strict no party policy, but on the other websites it's not. And so over the last weekend when Willamette had their graduation, there were lots of people staying there. Now granted, they weren't noisy or disruptive, but when you witness somebody parking in front of your home, opening up a trunk and pulling out alcohol, and hauling it into a house, I mean, it really causes concern that this is going to change.
So what I'm looking for, I'm trying to figure out what is it that needs to be regulated, other than, say, inspections, licensing, that kind of thing. What needs to be, is it the parking issue? I think what's going to happen when we hold a public hearing, this will all get flushed out, and you need to return at that point to give some more comments to that.
Well, a big concern is property values. When it comes time for my husband and I to possibly put our house up for sale, who knows what's going to, but how do you advertise your home and say, oh, by the way, I have a VRBO property across the street? When you're out looking to buy a home, you kind of ask, oh, who are the neighbors? You're kind of interested in, maybe who's living in that area. And to me, that's a negative.
Yeah. This is just another example where we as city councilors get faced with an issue that, gosh, I didn't have any idea Airbnb would be doing this kind of thing, and now we have to deal with, was that a recreational marijuana or medical marijuana? It's all these interesting conversations that we're going to have.
Right.
So please come back, please give some testimony, give it some thought, and bring your friends with you.
Oh, all right.
Love to have some testimony.
Okay, thank
The other neighbors, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming down. We do appreciate your testimony. Scott Snyder, followed by Evan White.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councilors. Scott Snyder, I manage the Grand Hotel at 201 Liberty Street Southeast. I'm also speaking regarding the Airbnb issue that is facing you. As a hotelier, I know the Webbers very well, and I'm very glad that they brought this to my attention. As a hotelier, I was naive enough to not know about Airbnb being a hot item in Salem, Oregon. So you shouldn't feel bad, Warren. But it is critical, I think, that the industry be regulated, that they are operating in a legal fashion inside the city limits, that that they should not be in the shadows. It should be out in the open so that everybody knows and that they're operating as good community partners. I can say that as a hotelier, we have parties that happen at the hotel, but I have staff there 24 hours a day that can call the armed forces if we need them to help break up those parties. These people don't have that luxury of having, a monitor, if you will, making sure they're listening to the complaints and interacting on their behalf. So I definitely empathize with their situation. I think that from a business standpoint, it's been mentioned a couple times in the conversation already that we are regulated. We're inspected every year. The community department comes and does make sure that our smoke detectors work, that we've got GFIs, that we're a safe property. This is over and above what happens with our annual inspections for backflow devices and smoke detectors that from our monitoring company. But these homes, there's no such thing as currently. So I think that it's a big issue that the city needs to look at and find out if what is working or not working in Salem, Eugene, other communities, that this is very prevalent before making a decision. So I encourage delving into this topic with full information at your disposal, so that you're making the best decision possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snyder. We appreciate your volunteering with the city as much as you have, and also appreciate your voice on this issue that we will be bringing forward, I believe. Councilor Bennett, you have a comment or a question?
Just a question. Ms. Snyder.
Do you want to pull your microphone close?
I'm sorry. Ms. Snyder, you described the kinds of things that a hotel goes through, and is that in your testimony? So if we're interested in seeing at least if the discussion proceeds at all, that there is a level playing field? Is that what you're kind of talking about here?
Very much so. We would want, from a guest satisfaction standpoint, a guest safety and security standpoint, that there's a level playing field for anybody, being in the transient occupancy business.
How many, I'm just curious, if you know off the top of your head, how many rooms there are available in Salem for rent at this point? You happen to remember?
I believe the current inventory is just under 2,500.
Okay, and as I understand it, the Airbnb type represent about 200 rooms. Is that your understanding too?
That's the number that has been brought to my attention as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Evan White, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Evan White, Land Use Chair of the Sunny Slope Neighborhood Association, and one of 4 neighborhood representatives who testified in support of the clearing and grading ordinance before the Planning Commission. Our only question was why staff added paragraph 82.010, limitation of liability. We asked, what is the public benefit of this paragraph? Mr. Davis, representing Public Works, and Ms. Zimmerman, the Deputy City Attorney, were unable to answer this question. We now have a memo from Mr. Kupani, who admits that the paragraph repeats state law in an attempt, I guess, to advise potential litigants who hire attorneys who are unfamiliar with the law. This, he believes, will save future legal costs for the city. In other words, this paragraph has no legal benefit and is intended only to impose a chilling effect upon the public. In an email to you, former City Councilor Cassia Quinlan described this paragraph as an unnecessary and confusing poison pill likely to increase legal costs. We don't find such a clause in the grading codes of other cities, such as the Clearing and Grading Code of the City of Portland, which I provided to Council at the first reading of this ordinance. I don't know of any other city that has a grading code with a similar paragraph. I suspect that other cities see no reason to fearfully circle the wagons and instead choose to look for ways to improve customer service. The legal doctrine described by Mr. Kapani is the doctrine of sovereign immunity. The king shall do no wrong, or can't do no wrong, but a king who wants to keep his crown does not go out of his way to antagonize the public. The best way to keep legal costs low is to enforce the ordinance and treat the public with courtesy and respect. I hope the public will not be asked to swallow the poison pill. Please remove paragraph 82.010 before you adopt this ordinance. The ordinance is long overdue, and I hope this is the last time I ever have to testify in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Are there questions from councilors? All right, thank you for coming, and we appreciate your voice on this issue. Is there anyone else in the chambers who wanted to testify during this period of time and didn't have a chance to sign up? All right, with that, we will close our public comment period. And the prerogative of the chair, it's 8 o'clock, and I think that we're mindful of the time, but if everybody wants to just take a quick stretch and break, then we'll come back into order pretty quickly. Thank you. All right, we are still on actually page 2 of the agenda.
Yippee.
So I will call to reorder this meeting of the Salem City Council for May 23rd, 2016. And we have moved as far along on the agenda to the consent calendar, which is item 3. And Councilor McCoy, do you have a motion for us regarding the consent calendar?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move the consent calendar with the following pull. 3.3C by Councilor Anderson.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor McCoy and seconded by Councilor Benars to adopt the consent calendar with the item 3.3C being pulled by Councilor Anderson. And Councilor McCoy, do you have a discussion regarding the consent calendar?
Yes, Madam Mayor. To go through here to inform the public that are watching on what is exactly on the consent calendar. And we've got the minutes from the May 9th meeting. We've got a resolution that initiates a voter-exempt annexation for a septic failure of a territory located at 3641 Boone Road. And then under action items, we've got, we authorize the city manager to apply for, accept if awarded, and execute all documents associated with the U.S. Department of Justice grant in the sum of up to $17,300 for the purchase of bulletproof vests for the police department. We have another action item that has to do with a Salem Airport terminal lease with the HUD Airport Shuttle for a 5-year lease. We've got, go to D, an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Military Department Office of Emergency Management that authorizes the city manager to enter into a working agreement with the Office of Emergency Management to provide them basically locating information for them within the city. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions regarding the consent calendar? Councilor Bennett.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify on that municipal airport lease with the HUD Airport Shuttle. Does that mean then the HUD Airport Shuttle is moving back to the airport away from the Red Lion?
Yes.
Well, that's
Right.
great. That's good.
That's good.
Good news.
Great. Okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor, made by Councilor McCoy and seconded by Councilor Benars. All those in favor of adopting the consent calendar with the one item 3.3C being pulled? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We have no public hearing this evening, so we'll go right to the item that has been pulled from the consent calendar under special orders of business. And Councilor Anderson, would you like to make a motion
I certainly would, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I move that we authorize the city manager to sign as a co-applicant with the Salem-Keizer Transit District for Transportation and Growth Management Program funds to identify sidewalk network gaps that inhibit access to fixed route bus services, and authorize the mayor to sign a letter supporting this grant application.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Anderson and seconded by Councilor Benars. Is there discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I think this kind of combines two things that we're all interested here. One is providing the best mass transportation we can to the citizens of Salem, and I know there's a separate district, but nevertheless they're in our city and we want to cooperate whatever way we can, which is we should support Salem-Keizer District, Transit District in doing this. And then secondly, it combines the issue that we're concerned about all the time, which is sidewalks. And I understand that this grant will not, it was just a planning grant and allow us to locate where we need sidewalks on the bus routes. But once we have that information, which should be quite helpful to us at some point, we may want to look at this in terms of, I know we've authorized, or hopefully authorize another $90,000 to bring the sidewalk repair up to $1 million to spend, and so we may want to look at these particular areas to see if we might do something with those areas as opposed to the plan we have now, the concentric square kind of plan.
Right. Thank you. Councilor Nanke, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam.
Okay.
One of the issues I think we may find is that some of those network gaps have crappy sidewalks on either side of that, and it's like, do we fill that in or not? And so that may be an opportunity for us to get a little bit more bang for our sidewalk buck as well by being able to prioritize some of those potential locations as well.
Councilor Bennett.
Thank you. I had a couple questions. One, does this obligate the city to do these repairs in these specific locations because of ADA designation? I'm just curious. Because this sounded like it was going to be a review based on the ADA criteria. If we're found to be deficient, will that then require, as it did before, the ADA required us as we did sidewalk work to do those various...
Do we have staff information about that on this grant request?
Well, perhaps the city attorney can address the larger Americans with Disabilities Act question, and then
I kind of want to defer to Assistant City Attorney Tom Anderson.
Yeah.
My understanding is it doesn't.
I'll send you my bill then.
All right.
My understanding is it does not obligate us to.
As Madam Mayor, if I might, as I understood the gentleman, the planner who testified, the issue now is because of ADA requirements on the transit district, they have to send the easy lift or the rides to these areas that aren't there, and all they're saying is if we can identify them at some point, we might be able to get out under the ADA requirements. It's not on the city, it's on them.
If there's no other way to get to the bus stop.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interpretation. I like that interpretation really well compared to the one I think is probably the more accurate one.
The transit people are here. To add to that, just generally speaking, the city doesn't have to immediately upgrade every ADA deficient sidewalk because
the transit district operates the service that's available to the public, their service has to be ADA compliant.
Okay.
So
Good.
what happened previously was that our service, the library and other areas, those needed improvements because of the service oriented, not just because the sidewalk itself is deficient.
Okay, good, good. That, I do like that better. The other one is, this says to fix stops for the transit. They keep moving these stops. Which stops are we gonna, I mean, will we be getting, which group of stops is this? Is this the one that's a mile from my closest constituent, or is this the one that's half mile? Because they've moved these stops around and eliminated some and changed them. These are fairly flexible. And I just want to understand kind of how that works. Because I don't think they've been real consistent in their stops.
Well, I think we have some questions that perhaps could be answered by Steve Dickey. Possibly, if you would come down to the podium, I would like to have a couple minutes so you can explain some of these answers.
Sure. I'm Steve Dickey. I'm the Director of Transportation Development for Salem-Keizer Transit. And to address your question in regard to the stops, the focus of the study will be to evaluate especially locations where we have a high concentration of rides that are currently being served by Cherry Lift, our paratransit service. And as Mr. Stonecliffe mentioned, that those costs are significantly higher. So a daily trip to and from a work site 5 days a week that is 6 to 7 times the cost of them being able to ride our regular fixed route service is a significant cost to the district. So the focus of the plan will be to combine identifying where we have high numbers of those rides occurring, and those are often where you have work sites or group homes or those types of situations, in combination with evaluating the sidewalk networks where that occurs. And what happens is, in some cases, we have what is called conditional eligibility for people to be able to ride those services. Those conditions can be ranging from heat to cold to sometimes it's simply if they don't have the ability to go from their home to the bus stop because they're lacking a sidewalk, then they end up getting qualified for that ride, which is much more expensive. This also, part of the purpose of this grant is not just to prioritize the city's list for sidewalk improvements, but it's also, there are times when the district is also eligible to receive funding through other resources where we may look at that and say we are going to apply for funding through a federal transit grant that may be to help and make those improvements. And sometimes what will make a difference of being successful in that case is if the local transportation system plan from the local jurisdiction is in support of that effort as well. So this plan really is to help identify those locations and put those in as a priority list from our perspective so that when we're applying for grant applications that we can also have the support of the city's documents and planning process as well. And we're here today because we had actually independently applied for this grant, and then the state came back and said, well, if it's going to be in the city, then you have to have the city partner with you on this. So.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, thank you. Are there other questions that councilors may have regarding this? Okay. Oh, yes, Councilor
I
Bennett?
wanted to just hear for just a second from one of the transportation people, one of our people,
okay.
just kind of understand their understanding of how this works.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dickey. We really appreciate you being willing to come and testify.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Welcome.
Good evening. Julie Warnicki, Transportation Planning Manager in the Public Works Department. And it's really like what Steve Dickey was saying. The Salem Transportation System Plan, we have in this an element or chapter for the transit system. Even though we don't operate the transit system, we are required by state law to plan for a transit system in our jurisdiction, which is a little bit awkward at times, but we coordinate closely with transit to identify their priorities and recognizing our support of them. So that, I guess that's sort of one element. In terms of the pedestrian network, it can help us to it's another piece of information to help council prioritize. It's not the only piece of information in terms of sidewalks. And I guess my third point is just with regard to the location of transit stops. I recognize that at times, they have moved, corridors have shifted, and that can be frustrating from a planning standpoint. We like everything to be solid. But I could actually envision that from this study, we might identify a place where a transit stop move might actually allow more users to get to that fixed route. So we might actually be suggesting changes to transit stops through this.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Does that, any further questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Dickey.
Yeah, I will be recusing myself on this vote.
No. Thank you. No.
I couldn't understand.
Was that Mr. Dickey that just said, oh, no?
Just lost the vote.
I don't think so. All right, thank you very much. And we will now vote on the item. It is item 3.3C. And the item was pulled by Councillor Anderson, his motion, and seconded by Councillor Bednarz, as I remember. And all those in favor of the recommended action, which is to authorize the city manager to sign the COA as co-applicant on the grant request. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I'm sorry, and with the recusal of Councillor Dickey. Thank you. All right, in your council agenda this evening, there are several information reports, and I would like to simply highlight in the Mayor's International Council report, there is a list of the members of the Mayor's International Council, and I draw your attention to that and hope that you make note that if you know any of the people serving on that council, you thank them for their willingness to participate. And secondly, that we will always, on our website that we have for the Mayor's International Council, list items of activities and events coming up from the various members of the council or other groups in the community that are hosting cultural, educational, religious events of an educational nature. And you might look at that and join us at some of those events. Are there questions about anything else on the information reports? Councillor Dickey, followed by Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I do have a question on 6E, but I actually want to address the International Council report and ask you a question. One of the things when we heard the report earlier today, and we saw that information about the cultural diversity in our community, I'm curious to know, through your International Council, are there opportunities to help build leadership? I'd love to see this group be reflective of, our body be reflective of the cultural diversity in our community. I'm just curious to know if there's encouragement to get on boards and commissions, encouragement to, maybe eventually, sit here on the council and provide that perspective.
Absolutely. That is one of the things that we hope to be able to champion by introducing people to the city and to the city processes and the opportunities. In fact, there are several people on the Mayor's International Council that are serving now on boards or commissions, and we look forward to more as well. And yes, we let them know about the openings on boards and commissions and ask them to take that back to their organizations as well. Good. And let's see, Councillor Lewis and then Councillor Bednarz.
Yes, I hope procedurally this is all right, but on agenda item 6D, I move that the council assume jurisdiction of the appeal.
6C. C?
C, D. D like in
6D.
Daughter.
I'm sorry, Councillor Lewis, I didn't hear what your question or comment was.
No, I'm moving that the city council take a jurisdiction in the appeal.
Right, you can do that by calling it up, and that's, I think, the purpose of what you're doing right now? Okay.
I guess so.
Second.
All right. Is that an actual motion? Do we have to go through that? we do go through the actual motion process? All right. Then it sounds like it's been moved by Councillor Lewis and seconded by Councillor Benars to actually call up the appeal of planning administrator's decision, item 6D. All those in favor of, excuse me, I first should ask, is there discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Are there any other items or questions about this? Councillor Dickey.
Thank you. I would like to address staff report, or the information report 6E. And I do have a motion. So I move to direct staff to bring back for council's consideration an amendment to the Salem Revised Code. Excuse me, I have to be able to read my writing here, sorry. An amendment to the Salem Revised Code to make the commercial growing of recreational marijuana a conditional use in the IC and IP zones, and would require each grow site to obtain hearings officer approval.
Okay. All right, is there a second? It's been moved by Councillor Dickey and seconded by Councillor McCoy. Councillor Dickey, would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, thank you. I know this is, I mean, you know, we have dealt with so many issues around marijuana over the last couple of years, recreational marijuana, medicinal marijuana, the whole thing. And this is one of the things that we, last fall, the Planning Commission gave us some recommendations for how to handle recreational grow sites, not realizing that we do have a couple of grow sites that have been existing as medical grow sites for quite some time in an IC and IP zone. In order to address that, because these are existing businesses who have invested heavily in their business, this seems like it's a good opportunity for them to be able to continue to locate where they are. It still will provide some oversight through the hearings officer process, through the city council. It's not, as I understand from staff, it is not an inexpensive process to apply for a conditional use. And so, you know, it's going to be people who are already invested here that would be looking at going through this process. And, you know, as we know, these processes can take some time. So this seems like a good compromise. It gives the opportunity for council to have some oversight, as opposed to there was an option in the staff report to just allow it as a special use. I felt like this gives us a little bit more, through hearings officer and through the council, a little bit more say in what happens. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Anderson, followed by Councillor McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in favor of this because I voted to allow it in IC zones in the beginning. I wanted to follow the Planning Commission, but I just have another question, and I don't know if this is this also the place to deal with the issue that was raised by Mr. Oss and his family, or is that another one of the ordinances that we're talking about?
That's a separate issue.
Okay.
All right, and so what we're, Councillor McCoy.
I'm going to support this this motion. I think it's a good idea. We talked about the commercial zones before. I still have a concern, certainly in my ward, because they're pretty much everywhere. There's a commercial zone that abuts a residential area, and so this is a way, at least, to give a little more input and a little more ability to maybe stop that if it's going to be something in a neighborhood versus in more of an industrial kind of a setting. It just gives us as the councilors a little more leeway to protect our constituents.
All right. Councillor Bednarz, and then, I'm sorry, Councillor Anderson, did you have your hand up?
It was Councillor Nanke.
All right, so Councillor Bednarz and then Councillor Nanke.
Seems we just had, didn't we have this conversation about 6 months ago when we adopted rules to allow recreational marijuana to be grown in, what was this?
In some of the
IN, it was a very narrow band. At some point, I'm not sure if I want to if I support this motion, but I wouldn't mind having the conversation again and taking a look at the issue. I'm just not sure if I'm going to support it in the end, but I know that we looked at it before, and I certainly would like to hear, now that it's been in place 6 months, I mean, I wish it was longer so we could see what was happening at this point, but also hear a report from any problems that we've had, either from codes, neighbors, or police relative to these grow operations as well within that report. So I guess for that sake, for sake of discussion, I guess I will vote in favor of the motion. We'll see what happens next.
All right. Councillor Nanki.
Yeah, just curious inside of the motion, as far as the application of conditions of approval, those would be brought back in the staff report?
Yes, that's correct.
And so staff would recommend different conditions that may be appropriate for...
We can give examples,
that.
but the whole point of the conditional use path is that you can craft the conditions unique to a particular site.
location.
So,
Be nice to see kind of what some of those are based on the adjoining or adjacent uses. Needless to say, I will still be voting against the motion because it's permissive language for anyone who hasn't been watching this for the last year. So.
Right, absolutely. And so I do understand that when this information comes back, it would simply be options as opposed to recommendations.
no, as I understand the motion, it would be to bring back a recommendation to change the code to allow recreational grow operations by conditional use in the IP and the IC zones.
Okay. Was that the intent of the motion? Yes, okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure I understood what that was. All right. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motions, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. The motion passes with Councillor Nanki voting no. All right. We now will move to ordinances, and we have 2 ordinances for first reading. No, 3 ordinances. Would the recorder please introduce the first one, 7.1A?
Ordinance Bill 816, an ordinance relating to marijuana, amending and renumbering Salem Revised Code Chapter 31, creating new Salem Revised Code Chapter 31B.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this item? Then Councillor McCoy, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor McCoy, seconded by Councillor Bednarz to move the staff recommendation, which is to conduct the first reading of ordinance bill number 8-16. Is there discussion? All right, all those in favor, is there discussion?
Yeah, let's find out.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Councillor Bennett and I were a bit confused. This is not the place to deal with the issue raised by the host. That's in the last item. Okay. That's what I told him, but we want to make sure. Because I am not yet the assistant city attorney.
His bill hasn't been paid.
That's right, that's right, that's right.
All right.
So that makes sense. I will say that I'm in favor of the tax, but at the last time we had a meeting.
Oh, I don't think this has to do with the tax.
This is the one that applies to the houses.
Yeah.
It is? Well, that's just what I asked.
Yeah. So it is the one.
Yes.
It says proposed ordinance referring to a tax on the sale of marijuana.
No, we're for 7.1A.
7.1A.
I am.
That's what his agenda says.
That's what my agenda says. Yeah.
Online it says, A is proposed regulation for recreational marijuana facilities. and
No,
amendments to the
mine
city's medical
says
marijuana
proposed, 7.1A for me is proposed engrossed ordinance bill 516 referring to a tax on the sale of marijuana items.
Is that for today?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one I picked up.
That's item C.
Well, it may be, but it's item A on mine.
I'm so sorry. All right. Maybe
Well,
that
we
was
better
an
start
early
over and see what happens.
We have to start the whole meeting over? Oh, no.
On trucks,
I'm so sorry. All right.
I'm sure there's a deep, dark conspiracy here that I'm going to get to the bottom of. No, I don't know why, but I don't know when I picked up my packet last Wednesday.
Oh, that must have been before.
It's an outdated package.
Yeah, I guess it is. But I thought we were going to be much better
right.
the high-tech age, and you wouldn't have this problem.
All right.
So where are we now?
Where are we? We are on ordinance item 7.1A, having to do with the regulation of marijuana facilities and amendments to the city's medical marijuana regulations.
So this is the time now to talk
set a
about.
public hearing.
Okay.
This is the time.
Okay, it's a public hearing, that's fine. Then if we're going to have a public hearing, I would just say I would vote for that. But I think we will want we're going to have some discussion about the issue of the parks and how far away they are. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Well.
All right, Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Then, understanding this, will we have some sort of portion of our staff report devoted to the situation we're seeing here with this pocket park and its impact on this particular business? I mean, will that be part of the public hearing or part of the staff report that comes for public hearing?
It can be, and it will include, I think, what the city attorney is about to address.
Yes, so basically, as you recall, when we adopted the medical dispensary regulations, we had an extended discussion regarding the locational requirements, and we can revive that and amplify.
It just strikes me that it would, I don't know if it'd speed things up that night. It'll speed things up in the long run, though, if we could deal with that question, I think, during that public hearing, at least have some sort of understanding of what that park is, what those definitions look like, and what a change might look like to accommodate the situation we're hearing about, if that's what the council wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, so, excuse me, the motion on the floor is to conduct the first reading of the ordinance bill number 8-16.
If I can also add to that, there's an addition in your agenda that sets the public hearing for June 27th because of the rescheduled meeting. So it's part of the motion too.
Yep. So you don't have to wait long.
I don't have to worry about it.
Looking the wrong way.
So it's the addition that we learned about at the very beginning of the meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay. To amend the hearing date, all right. So the motion on the floor by Councilor Anderson, I believe it was, or was it Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Bednarz? All right, don't laugh. This is really an easier job than I make it look, so. All right, all those in favor of the motion, you're going to get your turn. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries with one no vote registered by Councilor Nanke.
Nay, Nanke.
Yes. All right, we will now proceed to 7.1B, ordinance bill number 916. Would the city recorder please introduce that one?
Ordinance Bill 916, an ordinance relating to public art, amending Salem Revised Code, Section 15.010.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this? Councilor McCoy.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move that we conduct first reading of ordinance bill number 916, which would clarify the definition of art in the city of Salem's public art collection, and proceed to second reading for enactment.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor McCoy and seconded by Councilor Bednarz. Is there discussion? All those? Yes, Councilor Anderson.
I'm sorry, I'll be very quick.
All right.
I have the staff report, which says item B, and I wrote on this, where is this? Because it was not even on my agenda that I got on Wednesday. So I think in the future, I'm going to wait till Friday to pick up my agenda.
The official version goes out on Friday.
Okay.
Preliminary on Wednesday.
Yeah,
All right.
Wednesday's a draft.
I'm in favor of this.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. And we'll move to item 7.1C, proposed engrossed ordinance bill number 516. Would the recorder please introduce that one?
Ordinance Bill 516, an ordinance imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer, creating new provisions and referring ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Councillor McCoy?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that we pass the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor McCoy and seconded by Councillor Bednarz to approve the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? Councillor Anderson.
Now this is the time I can make my earlier discussion. I'm all in favor of the tax, but at the last council meeting, I did not vote in favor of the substitute motion, which was to dedicate the 3% tax to the police department. I think it's more appropriate in the general fund, so the city manager and the police department could determine at some point if they need to take that particular money. So I will vote against it, even though I'm in favor of the tax.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there further discussion? Councillor Bednarz, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I think I will. Oh, to the converse to that, this only brings it up to the public hearing where we'll be discussing the issue even further. This is only first reading. So it'll come up again in front of us.
We are not proposing this for a public hearing.
No public hearing whatsoever. This is it, and then, so what do we do? Do we engross it after this if we want to?
The staff recommendation is to engross it now and then proceed to second reading at your next meeting.
Thank you. That helps me.
All right, Councillor Bennett.
So I'm just curious then how this works. This is allocated to the police department, which is solely funded by general fund dollars. There's nothing here that says this money's not fungible, that this money doesn't in fact serve as a kind of offset. It's just saying this money is going to the police department. It doesn't indicate it's an add-on or anything else. It just says it goes to the general fund is what this amounts to. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, essentially you're correct. It would act in the same manner as the tobacco tax or the...
So we could say it goes to the fire department, it'd have the same impact, or to parks, it would have the same impact, or to the general fund, it would have the same impact.
If maybe Budget Officer Kelly Jacobs could address it.
You thought you were done.
You're never done when it's budget. Kelly Jacobs, Budget Officer. This provides for the revenue to go to the general fund. It becomes part of that funding source. It can be allocated, and we demonstrate this in the revenue section of the general fund budget, where we allocate resources to particular departments. For instance, most of the state shared revenue is allocated to the police department. Any grants of the police department are allocated to the police department. This would be another allocation to the police department.
That is offset, though, by other general fund dollars then are offset and moved over to other parts of the budget, can be moved over.
I suppose that would be true. It would be, I mean, we're going to have a challenge, I think, perhaps, if we were trying to just very closely define where this would be either offset or not offset. I mean, because every year, every budget is going to increase, essentially. So the police department's budget is going to require this revenue and other revenue to be able to balance.
Right, okay. That's what I wanted to understand. Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion? All right, the motion on the floor is the recommended action, engross the ordinance bill number 516, requiring that all proceeds from the tax from the sale of marijuana items be allocated to the police department and proceed to first and second reading for enactment. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, would the nays please raise your hands? All right, we have Councillor Bednarz, Councillor Anderson, and Councillor McCoy voting no, and the motion passes. Thank you. All right, we have second reading. Would the recorder please introduce item 7.2A and call for the roll call vote?
Ordinance Bill 616, an ordinance relating to clearing and grading of land and creating a new chapter 82. Councillor Benjamin?
Aye.
Councillor Bednarz?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis?
Aye.
Counselor Bennett?
Aye.
Counselor Anderson?
I'm going to reluctantly vote aye because I don't agree with the attorney's fees provision or the attorney issue, but I think the ordinance is good. So I'm a yes.
That was not.
Yes.
The qualified.
Yeah, qualified.
Counselor Nanki?
Aye.
Counselor McCoy?
Aye.
Counselor Dickey?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye, thank you. All right, motion passes. Thank you. And do we have anyone signed up for public comment? No, we do not. All right, we'll move right along to new business. You see in the agenda the mayor's item, and this has to do with the request to authorize travel to Japan as part of the Business Oregon Trade Delegation. And the item the motion is that I move that City Council authorize the mayor, city manager, and urban development director to participate as part of the Business Oregon delegation trip to Toyama, Tokyo, and Nara, Japan in mid-June 2016, and authorize travel, hotel, and meal expenses estimated at no more than $3,700 per traveler.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Bennett. Is there discussion? I would simply add that the purpose of this travel is twofold. Primarily economic development, as we do meet with the businesses in Japan that have businesses here in the city of Salem. We also explore the opportunities of individuals and businesses in Japan interested in doing business in Oregon and have the opportunity to talk with them about Salem and what we have to offer. The other thing we will do is to visit Tokyo International University, and of course they have the campus here, TIUA, and it's really a very good opportunity for us to reinforce the relationship and express to them the importance of having TIUA here in Salem. So that is the motion. Are there any questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We have a counselor's item from Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council ask staff to bring back options for how best to allow short-term rentals such as Airbnb, VRBO, Flip Key, et cetera, to operate in Salem.
Second.
My neighborhood.
No, it's everybody.
Everyone's neighborhood. All right, the motion by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilors. Everyone, all
We'll
right.
give it to
Bennett. Councilor Bennett, do you have comment?
Well, it had, I thought, a really good discussion written to go with it, explaining what the problem looks like. I'll just remind you that during the discussion we had in the budget hearing on the TOT money, we realized there are 200 and some of these operating in the city. Clearly, some operating one way, some operating another, some aren't noticed, some are. I think the one on Crestview's been noticed a number of times. We need some sort of understanding about how or whether we'll go ahead with this. I would just suggest that along with this, if you all agree that the staff take a close look at the recommendations from Travel Salem as well as from the Hotel Motel Association and the comments we heard from residents affected by this, to kind of understand what that might look like to deal with this. This reminds me of the Uber situation a great deal, and I'm certainly, I don't want to start with the assumption that's what we're going to do. It's more of a, we got to get a handle on this thing because it is coming at us, and I feel it does feel a lot like the Uber, and we don't seem to have this changing technology coupled with commerce is often tricky for us to deal with, in part because we don't have a business license fee to know who's doing what to whom in town. So this will help us, I think, if we can get something going here. Thank you.
Thank you. I have several of you with your hands up. Councillor McCoy, followed by Councillor Anderson, and then Councillor Bednarz and Councillor Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree. I support this. I agree totally with Councillor Bennett's description that it's just like Uber, because it's basically the same model in a different industry.
Maybe they won't come either.
But in this case, again, in my past job, I dealt with this, and this is an issue. It's an issue to some degree, as Scott Snyder said, of fairness. We've got the folks that are major multi-million-dollar investments in the city, building brick-and-mortar hotels that have a whole list of requirements that we, in regulations, they have to deal with, and are generating the TOT revenue. And then we, on the other hand, we have this new concept coming in, and it's totally unregulated. There's not even addressing, do they have to have smoke detectors? There's just nothing. Everything that's required over here at the Grand Hotel is not required with these people. Not really fair. They're not paying the tax, so they've immediately got a 9% price advantage on these guys before they start doing anything else. And you go on, and not only is it an issue of fairness, it's an issue of you got to regulate these people for the safety of the people that are going to stay here and make sure it's properly. And then you get to the third issue, which is what Mrs. Weber brought up, is this affects communities, and we've got codes right now that wouldn't allow commercial establishment in the middle of a neighborhood. So we got all kinds of things we have to deal with here to nail this down, and frankly, this is going on all across the country. Portland's dealt with it already, and I would tell you Airbnb gave them lip service, yes, we're going to do this, and then wouldn't turn over their list of homes that were in the Airbnb portfolio so the city could go back and enforce it. So on the one hand, they said yay. On the other hand, they're not really helping them at all, and they're not getting any traction up in Portland because of that, even though they've required that they be licensed and a variety of other things. So as we do this, we're going to have to do it in a way that we know we're actually being effective.
Good points. All right. Councillor Anderson, followed by Councillor Bednarz.
Surprising as it may seem, I don't have much to say on this because I agree with my fellow councilors what they've just said. I would add that, and I was going to ask the Webbers this, but I'm interested in whether there has to be owner occupancy in the Airbnbs and all these temporary housing sort of things, and that may be another way to look at it, because if what the Weber said is correct, the person across the street from them never has lived in that house, or he's never lived in many houses in Portland, and I think that's a real issue with the neighbors, because it's a whole different animal if you're in the house that you are renting out a bedroom out. Yeah, as opposed to you buy the house as an investment so you can rent out everything, and so I really would like some discussion of owner occupancy.
Councillor Bednarz.
So this may be a question for our city attorney at this point. I want to talk about process. At this point, we'll have a report that comes back to us, since we have individuals in this room that are directly affected, and I'm sure there are people watching. I just want to make sure they're akin to what's going to go on next, what they have to do, and where this might go. So we have a report that'll come back to us in a couple weeks? Be longer than that.
It will take longer than a couple of weeks. Mr. Gross, do you have
I've got 3 people looking at microphones, so I must have stirred something.
Well, I agree with the city manager. It will take longer than a couple of weeks. As I understand the motion, it's to come back with a recommendation about how to amend the code, or if we should amend the code, and if so, how we should amend the code to allow this type of a business. We'll probably want to do a lot of research. And we're going to want to probably do some outreach to get a sense of what's going to work with the community and so forth. So I'm thinking it'd be more like several months.
Okay, and then at some point, likely a public hearing will be held on this matter.
Yes.
Again, a place where people will have a chance to come in and testify.
Yes, that's correct.
So the best thing the public can do is just keep their eyes on the calendar, see where things are coming or going to, and looking as it will be a future report at some point, maybe.
Yes, I would suggest that if the public's interested, they should contact us at the Community Development Department, and we can start developing a list of interested people, and we can keep them informed as we go through the process.
I appreciate that very much.
And during this time period, we will be enforcing the city ordinance. Now,
That's what I was just gonna ask.
it'll be on a complaint basis, so as Mr. Gross said, for those interested in the issue, they should contact Community Development. Also, if there is a specific concern in their neighborhood, if there's a specific concern they have, they should also contact us.
Yeah, and they will shut them down.
Councillor Dickey.
Yeah, you kind of addressed it in that you're going to do some research. I know when we talked about vehicles for hire and we talked about food trucks, you looked at what other communities were doing. What comes to mind when we start talking about this is Airbnb is kind of a new thing, but VRBO has been around for quite a long time. I know that, you can go for years, you could go over to Lincoln City and look up VRBO, and there's been, things. So in some communities, and granted, Lincoln City, the coast is more a tourism-based economy, these types of facilities have been working okay for some time. So it would be good to look at some of those communities. How are they doing it versus, Portland's a little different. How's Portland doing it? How's Bend doing it? That kind of thing. So, but it sounds like, I know you've done it on the other things we've talked about. So it'll be really interesting to know, especially for ones that have had this existing for a long time.
Councillor Nanki.
I was actually just going to ask as far as what we're doing in the interim and Manager Powers to hit that, but also we need to be cognizant that next summer we're going to have massive quantities of people dropping in on the area for the total solar eclipse, and we shouldn't take that long, but I've seen weird things. I've seen fence regulations go on for years. So just that we need to address it adequately and quickly.
All right. Councillor McCoy.
I would just add, Glenn, I'd be interested if we get a better handle on how many actual homes there are being used. Scott said it was 200 Airbnb, but then he said it was 2,500 across the spectrum.
That's
Hotel rooms, okay.
Just rooms.
But because 200, I suspect it's more than that, but it'd be nice to know where
We'll
it's
see if
at.
we can find out.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this item? All right. Then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Alicia Blaylock. You did a wonderful job.